Well, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's reference is from Heritage Park, which is a point of interest in Calgary. It's sort of a museum of sorts of old things from the 1910 to 1920 era. One of the largest museums in Canada. Lovely place to visit if you're in the city of Calgary. Great place to do little plein airs or sketches. Great little scene here because it's a little amusement park for the kids. I didn't actually do it in plein air. I decided to just do this in the studio. But yeah, right now I'm just doing the block in for the picture. Mainly looking for the darks. Gouache is pretty flexible in the way that you can put lights over darks and darks over lights, so quite a workable paint to use. But I am starting with the darker tones and working sort of back to front. I've got some people in the reference picture that I'll be painting towards the end and adding the details to the picture later on. So right now it's just simple, just the simple lines that I see and shapes. Gouache tends to dry a little bit lighter, so some of these areas I actually will be coming back on later in the painting to re-darken up and get the values right. At first it's just about getting the local color, what you see, and trying to match as close as possible, but sometimes I find I do end up sort of going back and forth with the color and giving it more depth as I go along. What attracted me to this picture was the tent and the way that the light and the shadows were showing through the tent, at the back of the tent, creating patterns where the leaves were, and then the foreground, which also shows a lot of high contrast with the shadows from the trees above. So it just sort of captured my attention when I looked at it. Gouache is a great medium to work with when you're doing plein airs, just because it does dry, and I've done oil painting in the past for plein airs, and it's just sometimes a little more than you want to take with you, especially to something like this, which is more of an amusement area. There's a lot of people and you're a little bit of walking involved, and so you want to keep your plein air pack as light as possible. Weather in Calgary hasn't been quite as good this year, so I don't find I'm doing quite as many plein airs as I had hoped to be doing, but hopefully it'll get a little better and get out there and do some more. I'm just going to put a few extra pictures of the park in the top left-hand corner. You'll see them pop up here and there throughout the video, just so you get an idea of what else is at the park. There is pretty much designed like a little town, so very fascinating to see. Started to do a little detailing there on the tent edges, but decided against it because it's too early in the picture, and I have to remind myself of that sometimes, because it's easy to get caught up in detail area when that's really not the focus at first. I've got some leaves now that I'm putting in behind the tent, sort of adding more of a bluish tone just to push them back in the distance, keeping them light so that they keep the distance to them. Generally want to keep your darker tones in the forefront, and just to create that perspective and distance that you're looking for. Starting to come forward a little bit more in the picture and working on some of the smaller details of the picture also. Some of the finer lines. I've actually changed the placement of the figures that are by the tree there. In the original reference picture, the larger figure was lined up a little too much with the tree, so I sort of offset so that I could see the image a little bit better. Just reads a little bit better that way. Mainly as I go into the tent area, I'm trying to keep it very simple. I'm not trying to over detail, but you'll notice that I just add color really more than anything, and blobs of lines and dots. Also now I've done some leafing in the closer foreground, and tried to switch up the greens a little bit more yellows in them as I come forward, and a little bit darker also. I really like the effect of these leaves and the shadows of them hitting the back of the tent, so I sort of play with this a little bit with the bright yellowy orange color, and then the shadow effect. And again, just kept the detail fairly simple in the under the tent. Just colors. They're just the little cars that sort of go around. We've all seen them at the amusement park, and they're just, you sit in them and they're all different colors. So I've just added a variety of tones in there so that it reads well, and tried to keep it as simple as possible. Adding some darker greens to bring those forward, and overlaying some into the picture gives it a nice sense of depth. I try not to overwork these figures. I almost feel like I should have left them alone a little earlier in the going, because they read well enough without finicking on them more. And I think sometimes they can just look a little overworked if you try to capture a true likeness in any way. It seems to just go wrong. But here I go finicking. Had to stop myself from using a magnifying glass so I don't get in there too close. It's just a recipe for disaster. I try to go a little bit brighter when I'm painting from a reference picture, because generally the shadows are much darker in the reference picture, and overall a little darker, I think. So I tend to key up just one tone or so, just to give it a little bit more depth in the shadows. Again, darkening up those contrasts near the front. I'm using slightly different greens. I like the way it looks with the variety of greens. Some of them, it makes some of the shadows a little softer, and the darker ones a little harder, and a little bit of variety. I found the little fencing, the white fencing that went around this this tent quite challenging, because I wanted to get that effect of being able to see through it without and not over render the fencing. And it's just sort of a rick-rack sort of a design, but I liked the way the light came through it, so I wanted to see a little bit of contrast without overly defining the fence. You'll see me go back and forth on that a bit, and of course a little more rendering on those people. You'll also notice that I will soften those crisscross lines that are along the back edge of the tent there. Right now they're a little too defined, so I will end up going over those and just blurring those lines a little bit. And that's kind of what I mean about that back and forth, just sort of trying to keep those values right and constantly looking for comparisons so that you're seeing things without over showing them on the picture. Sometimes subtleties are what really give the sense of realism. And again, darkening up these shadows, bringing them forward more. So I'm going to leave you with some music now to watch the rest of the video through. Thank you for joining me in this painting, and if you make it to the end, or even if you don't, please like and subscribe. And thank you very much, and I will see you on the next one.